We'll continue on. This is part 2. We've looked at your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities of the SWOT. Now we'll look at the threats, and I'll do these quite quickly. You're saying all of the chores you have to do and feeling that you're everybody's servant, your work, your animals, you have a couple of horses, you've got children. It's very hard for you to have a window for your personal life with a partner, should you meet one. You've got a long way to go with the kids, even though they're first and foremost in your life, and you give them away for quids, but you're being very real. It is difficult. You're tired, and despite being fit and attractive, society seems to feed back to you that 55 years old is not a good age to find plenty of eligible prospects. The pool of available men is slim pickings.
Yeah.
Especially ones who haven't been dogged with emotional baggage. You do have a threat and a disadvantage whereby wanting to meet someone, you leave yourself open to exploitation and emotional upheaval, because some men have given up and they're just looking for sexual encounters and not a lasting relationship, because they're embittered from their first marriages. And that's not to be discriminating against men. It does happen with women too, but that's been your experience with men. That's right.
Correct.
Okay, well, let's have a look. Of all the fairy tales, let's look at an archetype to help us with those types of conditions in your life. You're looking for love. You want someone pretty good.
Yeah.
And you call yourself rather idealistic, but you're not going to change on that. You don't want to compromise on that.
No.
You're after what you want, and you're going to keep going till you get it.
Correct.
Better to have what you want than to compromise and then be miserable.
Correct.
And you've got a right to that point of view. It's your session, it's your life. So which of the fairy tales would you feel you know well and equates to that?
Would that be Cinderella, I thought?
Okay, I think that's a pretty good choice.
Yeah.
A pretty relevant choice, to be more specific. So in more advanced readings, we use more of the archetypes, because you're more than just Cinderella.
Yes.
But we're going to use Cinderella today as our key archetype to help guide your story.
Okay.
You have a wish to put in our wishing well here.
Oh, I do, yes.
Based on everything we've said.
Yes.
Lovely. Let's fold it up and put it in the middle. Okay. Lovely. So, Brooke, your life commences in this ordinary world where you have a lot of a professional job, you have animals to look after, more importantly you have your children. They're about to start high school. You get a very small window to be with a partner, and you haven't been able to meet one in 11 years. And you vacillate between being hopeful and tenacious and despondent and disappointed, and wondering if you're wasting your time.
Yes.
That's your ordinary world. The call of adventure is when you come to someone like me, or you go online and you ask your friends to invite you to a dinner party, and they line up a blind date, whatever might happen these days. It's mostly online, and you venture forth. You go, no, this is what I want. I want the sense of belonging. I want the sense of security. I want the sharing. This is an experience I want in my life to give me more fulfillment. I'm fulfilled as a person, but hey, wouldn't it be nice to share my life with someone as I grow older? That's your call to adventure. That's plan A. But suddenly plan B emerges because you refuse the call. And there are times when you do. There's times when you go, no, I can't do this. I'm so bogged down. You use that terminology. I'm so bogged down with the chores of my life. Where's there a window for me? And let's park that for another session. If you refuse to go online, if you refuse to leave yourself open, if you close down on this dream, what will happen to Brooke? So step 4 of the hero's journey is you meet a mentor. In the case of Cinderella, who was bogged down by chores, longed to meet a beautiful equal partner, someone who was her match in every physical, mental, spiritual sense. Her fairy godmother appeared and gave her instructions, and she went to the ball, and the rest is history. Who is a mentor for you that might have helped you keep going or gives you directions, a sense of direction with this? It can be yourself. It can be
family member.
Family, it can be a guide.
I would probably say my sister.
Okay. Okay. So she is pointing you in the direction of forward.
Yes.
Saying don't look back on the past.
Yes.
And the mentor is guiding you to the threshold where you take the leap of faith.
Yes.
Now, Cinderella was on the threshold, wasn't she? She was in that cellar, and the fairy godmother arrived, and she went to the ball, and she was in the cellar again when they came to put people's feet in a slipper, and suddenly she was able to get out of that dungeon and participate,
right,
even though the others were trying to push her back. So we could almost look at the things that are trying to push you back as your weaknesses, and your disadvantages. And your weaknesses are being impatient, being intolerant, being despondent when you haven't met your goals yet.
A perfectionist.
Being a perfectionist. So be aware of that when you're on the threshold and you might get a date or something and you're going, oh, yeah, I don't know, they're not ticking all the boxes just yet, oh, I don't know if I can be bothered. Be aware of that barrage of, threat sitting right on that threshold, blocking your way forward. Cinderella had all that. She pushed on through. Mind you, she had a prince at the end of it. But think that way, perhaps. Feel that, keep that hopefulness going. When I say think that way, it's the way you normally think. And then the monkey mind creeps in. Be aware of that. The 6th position is your tests, your allies, and your enemies. So, in her case, Cinderella was the stepmother and the wicked stepsisters, circumstances preventing her. Your tests and enemies are those weaknesses and those threats without finding ways around them. So what might help you with those chores and give you more time, or what might help you with your despondency?
Gosh, I haven't really addressed that question.
Could we look to your strengths as being your friends that help you? Your fitness, your health, your attractive appearance, your positive, optimistic ways, the fact that you know you're capable, your tenacity.
Yes.
Really not taking those for granted, feeding into those.
Yeah, drawing in on those strengths. Yeah.
Reminding yourself that you've done it before, you can do it again, and to keep going. When we get to the 7th stage, we're at the belly of the whale stage, or where you go into the inmost cave and reflect.
Yeah.
What might you say to yourself in those moments?
When I'm despondent, or when
Yes.
I'm okay. Well, the usual lack of self-esteem, the not good enough, the not young enough.
All right.
There's no one available. They're all
And
all losers.
And what if I was to say to you that that's only thinking makes those things so? That you have the power and control to think differently than that.
Yes.
And when you've done that, it lifts your mood. And when you think that way, it brings your mood down. It shows you the power of those thoughts.
Yes.
Cinderella says to herself, there's all different meanings on the back of these cards. When you are forgiving and grateful to others, your confidence, resilience and self-worth will shine. When you are forgiving and grateful to others, your confidence, resilience and self-worth will shine. Now, I remember you saying earlier you're not very forgiving of people's foibles.
Yes.
And you have very idealistic, high expectations, in a way, in your own words, of what they need to measure up to.
Mm.
And indeed, you put those pressures on yourself.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you wouldn't question your self-worth. So they're thoughts for reflection for your homework.
Yes.
And I'll write these down with you later before you go.
Okay.
Okay, 8 of the hero's journey is an ordeal. Cinderella's ordeal was getting those slippers on, that slipper on a foot and proving it was hers and not being persecuted and murdered by those stepkin. Trying to prevent her from doing it. What is your ordeal? What could be your ordeal? Let's say you've met somebody, you're having to be forgiving and grateful. They have a foible, and you realise that your idealistic standards can make it almost impossible to achieve because not every man is a prince like Cinderella's. What could be an ordeal that you face yet? You've met someone, let's say. They're not perfect, but they're there for you. They're willing to share the journey.
Perhaps my time constraints.
Your time constraints
Yeah.
might put a dampener on
Yes.
letting the relationship flourish.
Blossom. Lack of romance because of my lack of availability. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Food for reflection. Food for reflection. Well, let's say you compartmentalise your life.
Right.
We do some guidance and some planning and some strategizing over the coming sessions. And you compartmentalise your life and not leave it perhaps as unplanned and spontaneous as it might be.
Yeah.
Even though it doesn't seem it because you're saying it's very bogged down. But perhaps there is room to say, okay, that's a lunch on Wednesday. That's a dinner date on Saturday night. And perhaps have a planner and things are more concretely planned out.
Yeah.
Perhaps that.
Yeah.
Perhaps that might be something you find very rewarding. It sounds perfunctory and it sounds administrative and boring. But perhaps your life needs something like that. Just a food for thought.
Yes.
How do you feel about that idea?
Well, sure, but I think that the other party would have to agree to, fitting in with those times, wouldn't they?
They would.
Yeah.
And they are open to negotiation.
Yeah.
Someone usually says, look, I'm free for lunch on Friday. How about you? And then it gets a workaround. So the 10th position is the road back. Cinderella found her road back to being the girl she was before being sequestered to the cinders and the fireplace and away from her normal life by jealous stepkin. In your case, you want to get you're back to a life where there is a partner in your life. It's been 11 years since you've really had something that you could call secure, gave you a sense of belonging,
yes,
fed into your self-esteem, the companionship. What will that road back look like? What could that look like? How can you get there? What sort of steps could you take to get there using your strengths?
I guess this is finding the partner is number one.
Yes. And we're presuming at this point you have, but they have foibles and you need to
right.
make allowances.
Okay. well, it's embracing it is what it is, looking at it, not looking at it under a magnifying glass, and just the flow of the relationship, not putting the pressure,
Beautiful.
just letting it flow.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Thanks.
And perhaps as Cinderella has said, when you are forgiving and grateful to others, your confidence, resilience and self-worth shine. Perhaps every time you feel yourself putting someone under the magnifying glass for their flaws, focusing instead on their strengths.
Yes.
And it sounds to me you do that.
Yeah.
But a bit more of it. The more you do that, the negatives will be pared away.
Yeah. Okay.
How is Brooke resurrected as an evolved person through this Plan A approach? Well, she has become all the more self-aware
Right.
from these types of actions.
Yes.
She's regulating her negative emotions with positive ones, moderating them, trying to increase more of the positive self-talk and thoughts.
Yes.
She has found a partner who's staying the course with her, but she's having to spend more time looking at the good things than the negative. So she's a more fulfilled person. She's shining with confidence and resilience, if we follow what Cinderella says, and her self-worth is growing because she's got a partner and she's sharing and she's got companionship, and it does make her feel more enhanced as a person.
Right.
The last step is the elixir, the boon to share with others. So let's say all of this has happened. Let's look at your wish now. Brooke has said, "Dear universe and beloved spirit guides, please find me a suitable, loving partner who will change and evolve with me in equal partnership, who will share the rest of my life with me." It's lovely.
Thanks.
That's lovely. Let's say these measures you've taken, this course of action you took to solve your problem of being alone, despondent. Let's say this option is reality. And now you come home with this elixir. What is the boon you would share with other women who are in your age group and doing the same, similar things to you and wanting the holy grail of love and partnership? What might your wisdom, pearl of wisdom be? That's your boon to them.
I would say it takes a lot of inner work to, one, recognise your weaknesses, and then two, to address them and get to a point in your life where you're able to move forward with somebody in an equal partnership. And I think it's trying to find peace within yourself, coming to terms with who you are first, and then being able to just, as I said before, feel the flow with someone else, and it not to be so challenging and difficult because you've worked on yourself.
Very
to
good.
Get to that point. And one thing I thought today was, I think Eckhart Tolle had said it, I am not my thoughts don't make up me, my thoughts are just another part of my body, they're just my thoughts, they are not me.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said.
Thanks.
And I mean that sincerely. So that was Plan A. Plan B would be that you get off the merry-go-round of dating and hopefulness, what might happen then? We won't go through the 12 steps,
no.
but normally we would. We don't have the time in this session, and we can in a future session, but just off the cuff, what do you think might happen if you did that? How would you feel?
I guess you could go either two ways. One, I could embrace it and enjoy my freedom and enjoy my children and work, and just come to an acceptance. Or the other, I could bury myself into a hole, and I could become quite depressed and feeling worthless and so on. So it's a tough one, that one. I'd go either way.
Yes.
And I wouldn't know unless I took that step.
May I also add, from my perspective, that has entered your mind.
Yes.
And you haven't had the same intrinsic motivation to go with plan B as you have with plan A, because you are sticking with this course of action for 11 years.
Yes, yeah. So I can't see myself going with plan B.
Yes, because it's always available to you, but
Yes.
you don't seem to want to take it.
No.
So we have a plan A. It's not the end of the story.
No.
It's the beginning.
Okay.
And in future sessions, we can explore other options regarding the same questions, the same wish, the same strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats and goals, problems, etc. But just looking at it through another lens.
Yes.
So that you can start to feel a sense of self-determination and preparedness for the future and the path you're going to take. And it's as much a psychological journey as it is a physical one.
Yes.
It's as though the psyche has to be sorted first. It's as you think, so do you act.
Yes.
As you act, so goes your future.
Right.
So that's for another day. We're on time, a little bit ahead of time.
Thank you.
Any questions arising from today's session?
No, not at this point. It's all quite clear. It's good.
Great. And I can provide you with some links to some further information about the processes we've used today. If you want to email me and let me know, I'll send them as attachments or send you to the website.
Okay, terrific.
Okay, Brooke.
Thank you, Jan.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.